this gets around to a question that I've had for a long time about how do you get across to people in general. I'm not trying to isolate any particular group, but it's just how do you get across to people to consider all aspects of the problem that you're dealing with so that you get the whole truth and not half-truths.
The guy who invented public relations, who I had the pleasure of meeting and doing some studying with back a long time ago, that's what he said is a good, honest, ethical public relations person is not going to tell you a lie and is not going to inflate the truth on his side. He's just going to tell you his part of the truth. And that's it.
Yeah, but you see, by doing that, though, and not considering even as a public relations individual, he's holding back the whole truth.
It's not his job.
As he sees it.
That's right.
No. I'm saying as he sees it. Because he's only sharing with you the truth that he wants you to hear.
Precisely.
Okay, now that presents a problem. Because the thing that happens is if you hear that from several different similar kind of people, then you give the appearance as if you have heard the whole truth. Now I know that every individual should have a responsibility of questioning what is true and what's not true. I mean, we all have that responsibility to constantly be questioning and learning from that. But at the same time, I think that we all have a responsibility as well to tell the whole truth as we see it, not the partial truth that we want you to hear. And somehow I think that's a kind of a concept or an idea that we need to be able to get as many people and all people as possible to feel that way, to feel like that they will consider both sides. I mean, if you tell this aspect of it, there's always a good, there's always a bad. And we recognize, most of us recognize that there's some failings to most everything else that has some quality to it.
The whole truth, because I don't think any of us can give the whole truth in finite time. And so you're always going to be highlighting some partial truth.
Whole truths are a point in time. Okay, and you notice I didn't say tell the whole truth. I said tell the whole truth as you see it. Okay, and perhaps I should say at that point in time. Okay, don't hold back that which is not supporting your point simply because you want to support your point. Okay, don't hold back that partial truth that you know may spark that individual to think, wait a minute, maybe I need to rethink this problem and disagree with you.
What is this point in time? It changes, you know, after I say something, 2 minutes later I start reflecting and I start realizing more elements and aspects of the truth.
Okay, and that's a different point in time.
So so it never ends, the unfolding process
Absolutely.
of telling the truth, you know.
Yeah.
Brennan.
Well, what keeps jumping out to me is that nature didn't really begin to fully disclose herself until, like what Bucky talked about, like at the beginning of the last century, you know, that we can only perceive 1/1,000,000th of reality is directly apprehendable by our 5 senses. So what I said, you know, reality is everything I can see, touch, taste, and smell, but really there's this whole invisible reality that's only now beginning to disclose itself. So I could say in 1895 when Bucky was born that this was the truth, only to find, you know, there's these things called radio waves and now we can fly and all this other stuff.
I didn't find the conversation that useful because I thought it was too limited in scope. And I think it needed to start in a much larger space to be more useful. And it was sort of at the level of opinion as opposed to system. So that's why I wasn't that interested in it.
And go on, how can we get there?
Help us.
Well, what the truth innate of what? So So,
Great.
sense perception, not sense perception, to me, that's kind of a too small a subject, because I think the domain of that conversation now is much larger than the distinction that even Bucky made in the way he used it, but he was on track. Anyways, the question of truth, I think, is the same kind of subject, truth innate of. And I think in the definition innate of, then the truth will start to stream into types of truth. Larry Flynn's truth, my truth, or my truth kind of thing. And my guess is if we each spoke our own personal truth, first of all, we couldn't do it without tears in our eyes. You can't speak yourself without being enveloped in it. It wouldn't actually make sense in any kind of system for anybody else other than there would be commonality of themes and caring and interest.
Value systems.
Yeah.
Truth, a lot of times, one of my first rules is always remember who your audience is. In this case right now, it's everyone who's here, because I'm talking to you. But when you're conveying truth by what its definition is, you're obviously limited by your own perception of it and your understanding of who you're talking to, who the audience is for this truth you're speaking of. Kind of unconnected to that, but remember John had said something about when I was sitting in on one of the classes, try not to frame your answer into a question. I think I'm kind of paraphrasing it, but it really struck me and got me thinking that it's not as easy as it sounds to do that, and it's not as easy like when you're conveying what your thoughts are or your truth, who the audience is, what your perception of the audience is for whatever that reason that you're trying to convey something to them is. Although I kind of like the interconnectedness of everything, because in that case you're just revealing a perspective of one part of something to another part of something, which is the same thing you're part of.
The old adage, the truth spoken isn't the truth.
Let the truth out of the room and it will take care of itself.
Yeah.
If your audience changes, is your truth changing? Why wouldn't it be the same answer for any audience?
So truth is, anyways.
So maybe truth is irrelevant.
Heraclitus, you can't step in the same river because it's not the same you and not the same river.
Yeah, I think that. So,
So the question is there any value in truth? You don't know what truth is. You're always in search of truth.
value and value.
Time and tide wait for no man, and knowledge is the same way. There's more to learn than there is to teach.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't think society really works that way.
So for me, when I'm pursuing truth issues, it seems like an infinite regression, and I never get there. So to answer Joe's question, I'm thinking what you want to do is that Fuller's idea of the intellectual development game, find a system that the system you're thinking about fits in. I always like going maybe 1 or 2 abstraction levels beyond where the teacher or the client or whatever is, and try to come up with a broader, more expansive truth. But I've started developing the discipline of not going too far, because if I let myself go wild, I end up 10, 15 levels out, I'm talking to the customer about God, and that doesn't work. And so for me, actually trying to get to the whole truth, you end up with this system of a system of a system, and the customer is here. And it actually takes me, it's actually not appropriate frequently. So truth is integrity, it's bringing it together. So it needs to be incisive, so it needs to be with a community, with, as Don was saying, it needs to be relevant.
Relevant to your audience.
And as Al was saying, relevant to the audience, which is always going to be somewhat special case, takes you out of that godlike world and mysticism and into technology, and whether social technology or hard technology.
That's one of the enjoyable things about this group is that for me, and I feel for others, you can step back to a larger, people that understand the comprehensive, on a big scale, comprehensive. And you have two advantages I find here. One is you don't have to explain it because people are familiar with Fuller and Fuller-esque concept, and people are interested in it. And that's why I find it just so freeing to come to the SNEC events.
I was impressed by the breadth, depth, and the incisiveness of the conversation you have just heard on the truth, the whole truth, that Joe started at the Synergetics Collaborative's recent workshop at John Belt's Design Studio in SUNY Oswego. Toward the end of Buckminster Fuller's life, he held sessions called Integrity Day because he thought the integrity of all humanity would be critical to our becoming a success. To summarize and conclude this important discussion, here is a piece I put on my website, cjfearnley.com, a few years ago. Integrity. Integrity is the most continually important issue in human affairs. We must, each of us, persevere to consider and reconsider our values and the value of our actions. Integrity implies honesty, honesty with oneself and with others. Integrity implies truth, being true to the facts of experience, and true to oneself and to others, including all humanity, our earth, ocean, world, universe, and God. Integrity requires consideration and reconsideration of the whole and all of the parts and their synergetic interrelationships. Total, complete integrity is impossible for finite humans to fully achieve. For human beings, integrity is a never-ending process requiring perseverance, discipline, dedication, and continual rededication. Please share your thoughts about this discussion in the comments. What is your angle on the truth, the whole truth, and the importance of integrity? Do you think humanity could coordinate more spontaneously and more effectively if each of us would feelingly appreciate the significance of integrity? If we would more diligently attend to the whole truth? How can we help facilitate the never-ending rededication to integrity that appears to be necessary? Please post your thoughts, ideas, and suggestions in the comments. Thank you.